Looking for impeccable style? Diana's Tailor House is redefining elegance with custom designs that bring fashion dreams to life. From tailored suits to bridal gowns, their Beverly Hills based team crafts garments with unmatched precision and sophistication. Experience bespoke fashion and get a personalized style consultation by visiting dianatailorhouse.com today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the world's most famous podcast, produced by Beverly Hills Magazine. I am Jacqueline Maddison, founder and editor-in-chief. Today we have a very special guest, Felicia Henderson. She is the powerhouse storyteller behind iconic series like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters, Moesha, Soul Food, Empire, First Kill, and The Punisher. Yes, some of our favorites. And she is breaking new ground in the film industry with her award-winning short film, The Rebel Girls. Lauded at film festivals nationwide, this Academy Award contending film is poignant and electrifyingly telling an untold story of the civil rights movement. With a fresh and contemporary lens, Henderson weaves a story of ambition, sisterhood, and the quiet defiance needed to transform the world. More than just a historical recount, The Rebel Girls redefines how we engage with the past, resonating deeply with today's audiences. I am honored to have her as a guest on the show today. Let's welcome Miss Felicia Henderson.
Hello,
Hello, beautiful Felicia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the world's most famous podcast. It's great to have you on. It's such an honor to be able to spend some time with you.
Thank you so much. It is definitely my honor to spend time with you.
I want to let you know I watched the film, The Rebel Girls, which we're going to get into today. And I just want to congratulate you on a tremendous work. Well done. Wow.
Thank
I
you.
got chills multiple times throughout that short film, even in the
Multiple times.
multiple times. It was so moving and just beautiful.
Thank you.
And I saw you wrote, directed, and produced it. So
Yes,
you are
ma'am.
amazing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated that. You are making sure that my day is starting off in a wonderful way, or even here in the middle of it, making sure that it stays in a wonderful way. Thank
Amen.
you so
Amen.
much. I
Well, this is the
appreciate
day the
you.
Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it.
Amen.
That's
Yes.
right. So let's dive in. Your work spans obviously the beloved sitcoms we all love, dramas, and now films like The Rebel Girls. How has your approach to storytelling evolved over the years as a
Mm.
writer?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um,
Because I'm a writer myself. I've written a scripted television series based on my life as editor in chief. Perhaps we can collaborate on it at some point. But
cool.
yeah, I would love to share it with you. It's super fun. But as a writer, because I know a lot of times we write from a personal paradigm,
Mhm.
um, so how has that for you
Yeah,
evolved?
yeah, you know what? I think my career started, like you said, in sitcoms. And when I was writing then, it was all gut because I
Mm,
didn't go to school for writing. I hadn't gone to film school or any of that. I had gotten into this business. My very first job was at NBC in the executive training program, like a management training program.
mm, mhm.
So for me, it was that I ever got started. Someone just said, I think you're a writer. I think,
Wow.
while I was in that program, the president of NBC said, I think you're a writer. And I was
Mm.
like, what? And he's like, you're very funny. And the things that you say about scripts, and I think you should apply, to the
Yeah.
Brothers Writers Program. And so it was a comedy program. And you had to write a script
Mm.
and of an existing show. And at the time, the original Roseanne was on, and I wrote a Roseanne spec script. And I thought about it like, well, I kind of always have been told I was funny, or I've always, kept a journal, or I've always written since high school in the high school newspaper. But so it was all gut. It was sort of the God-given part of the gift.
Mhm.
And I would say then over time, the way that my writing has evolved is that one, I did finally go back to school and get an MFA in screenwriting. So I learned more about the rules of writing and why what I did naturally, I learned the reasons why. Oh, that's why that works. That's called this or that. But it was
Mhm.
what I always did naturally. So I would say over time, it has evolved in that I am more clear about why I do what I do and how I can change a story or when a certain thing needs to happen in a story. But it's also evolved in that I'm more sort of media literate. I'm more conscious of the decisions, the power of media,
Mhm.
and how that it does affect decisions that I make while writing. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean I try to only do nice, perfect people, but I'm at least aware that of the power, of what we do, right?
Oh,
So I think
absolutely.
that, and it's evolved in terms of what I'm now very specifically know what I want to write about. Whereas, when you're starting out, like any opportunity is a great opportunity. But I came
Right.
to this place now and I'm like, I really love writing about powerful, interesting, dynamic, flawed women in any period, you know?
Wow. Yeah, that's why I'd love to share my show with you. Amazing. But that's incredible. And it's so true because, every chapter of our lives is teaching us and preparing us for the next chapter, right? So you as a woman, as a writer, as a creator, have through your experiences evolved to this point of creating such a powerful story with such a poignant perspective, not just culturally, but emotionally,
Mhm.
spiritually. And I think that's why just even talking about it, I'm getting chills because it's going to move the hearts of the viewers. And I think that's what powerful filmmaking does. And that's how it changes the world. How do you change the world? By changing people's minds, by changing
Mhm.
their hearts,
Mhm.
and so I believe you've done that even in this 22 minutes of
Mhm.
film, and it's beautiful. Now, you obviously love the strong female leads or the broken female leads. Why is showcasing women's stories so central to your projects?
Yeah, I think, and I do focus on the I would say strong and complicated, not so much broken,
Okay.
because I don't think any of us are broken.
I love that.
We have been through experiences that, if we're still here, then it did not break us. If we're
Right.
still here, then there's something inside of us that we chose ourselves.
Hmm.
So I think that one, I am one of six girls. I have five sisters.
Wow.
And my grandmother also lived with us I guess in high school, my
Oh,
grandmother came to live with us. So you can imagine,
I bet she was strong granny.
she was, oh yeah, you didn't mess with grandma. You didn't mess with her. Yeah, grandmama didn't play any of that. So she
Yeah,
was tougher on us than my mom was, so
sure.
I've always known a life full of women and,
Hmm.
complicated, interesting women. And then my mother was really best friends with her sister. So my aunt Grace's kids, were seven kids. I was one of eight. Aunt Grace had seven. So we were always like, and they were like my brothers and sisters, really,
Yeah.
as we were that close, that was a house too, so full of women. So that's what I've known. And my, biggest role models and the teachers who first believed in me or thought I was special, as a kid
Mm.
were women.
Mm.
So I think it's very normal and natural for me. But again, as a young writer, I didn't know that I wanted to pursue stories about them. My first mentors in this business, again, writers, women, Sarah
Mm.
Finney Johnson and Vita Spears, whom I met on my first writing job on Family Matters.
Mhm.
So I love, and also, we live in a world where, and it's why I did the Rebel Girls, because their story hadn't been told, and yet they are a major part of civil rights in the 60s of that history, a major part. Like some
Yeah.
would argue they saved the movement.
Mm.
So, when national interest was waning. So,
Mm.
we tell the stories and the history of great men, great in quotes. Um,
Right, right.
but because it's usually men who tell the story of men. So
Mm.
I think that as women, we have the responsibility to enter the narrative, to correct the narrative, to tell our own stories, to,
Yes.
make sure that we are seen for the valuable parts that we have played.
Agreed, agreed. So it made me think of a scripture where we're talking about brokenness, but the Lord is close to the crushed in spirit. Because yeah, I agree with you. We're never broken, but we can certainly come to points where we feel crushed.
Yes,
But we
yes,
can heal and we can grow and we can grow stronger and come out bolder and wiser because of it.
yeah,
So, what
yeah.
inspired you to tell the story of the rebel girls, and why do you feel that it resonates, or how does it resonate with today's
Mhm.
audiences?
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Mm.
I mentioned Sarah Finney Johnson earlier as my early mentor, but she's like my sister now. In fact, I'm talking to you from her home.
Oh,
So
nice.
so
That's
right
beautiful.
now, yeah. So but she was the first one to say, "Do you know this story?" And I didn't, and I was so surprised that I didn't. And like I said, and yet these girls were such a big part, in the children, who marched were such a big part of the movement. And I didn't know this particular girl's story. So that's how I was exposed to it. But after reading whatever article that she gave me, I just started to do a deep dive and I couldn't get enough of it. And I'm
Right.
reading and reading and, checking stuff out and watching everything that I could get my hands on. I'm sort of a researchaholic kind of a person. So I was in my
Mhm.
happy space,
I'm
doing all the
sure.
research and reading everything. And then I started to travel and saw that there was an exhibit at the African American Museum in DC and another one at the Lorraine Motel Museum in Memphis. So I'm like, I just couldn't get enough of it. And then finally decided I have to do the research to see how many of these women still survive.
Right.
And did, and met two of them, went to Americus, Georgia and Southern Georgia, and visited the actual stockade where they were held.
Wow.
And then upon meeting them, knew I had to tell their story. And
Absolutely. Yeah, it
so
was meant to be.
it
It
was
was
meant
like
to
by
be.
divine design.
It was
Somebody
meant
had
to
to bring it
be.
to light.
And I feel honored that it was me. and
Yeah.
and it's contemporary in a way that, those who affect change are often usually the young people.
Mhm.
Just like now, some of our young leaders that are so impressive are the kids on the campuses of schools where children have been murdered, where
Yeah.
mass murders have happened.
Mhm.
Leaders are emerging out of that are high school kids to say we need sensible gun laws.
Mhm.
We shouldn't have to live like this.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, those kids and, and college students and things like the Black Lives Matter movement are
Yeah.
young people. And these girls in 1963 were teenagers. So,
Mhm.
in that way, it's very contemporary in that the leaders of today, young people of today, can see, like, oh, we come from a history of those who would go, I want to stand in the gap. I want to be an agent of change. I want to be part of the resistance to what is not right or
Yeah,
fair or
absolutely.
equal or just.
It seems like the greatest movements of justice are born out of the grossest acts of injustice.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate, but it's almost like there's these necessary evils that create or bring to light the goodness of humanity and the necessary changes it needs for us to evolve as a one human race. You
That
know,
is
a,
often true. Yeah, you're
you
so
know.
right about that. It is
Mm.
often true. And you wish no one pain, but I think the other thing about the contemporary aspect is that I'm hoping that I'm bringing a new way of telling the story,
Yeah.
in a contemporary way, that it is not focused on the traumatic event, but on the three-dimensional human beings who had a life before, during and after this
Yes.
this event.
Mhm.
it is about their fantasies and who do they want to be when they grow up because they are dedicated to getting out of the situation. So they focus on through magical realism and
Yes.
fantasy and fantastical thinking and demonstrating it visually is how I enter the
And
storytelling.
I
That
think as a director, the way you did that was so beautiful. From
thank
even
you.
the transitions from the dark dungeon scene to the vibrant color of the dream, and I think that touches the core of us as human beings. And
Mhm.
we all have dreams that are seemingly impossible. And if we find ourselves in situations, circumstances that again seem that these dreams are unreachable, I think what your story does is inspires a hope and a faith in the impossible dream being made real. If
That
we have the faith and to believe.
No, that's exactly right. This is very much a story of hope,
Mm.
of strength, of sisterhood,
Yes.
of and again, another contemporary thing is just about wanting everyone who watches it, especially young girls, obviously, and women, but everyone who watches it to take away from it that no matter your circumstances you find yourself in,
Mhm.
sometimes it's physically where you find your body, like it was with these
Right.
girls, but
Hmm.
no matter the circumstances you find yourself in, if they are not circumstances you want to be in,
Hmm.
as long as you never allow anyone to control your mind,
That's
your
right.
brain, your thoughts, then there is hope for a better day for you to be where it is that you want to be.
That's right.
Because, you might be able to, for a moment or a longer time, um, not be able to get out of a situation. But as long as you are the one who says, only I get to determine what I think, regardless of where I
Absolutely.
am.
Well, and then with respect to the great evil of racism, right, which is what the great civil movements or civil rights movement was about, was breaking free from those chains and bondages of that evil. Is no one can make you feel less than unless you agree with them, and that is about knowing and honoring who you are as a daughter of God, a child of God, a son of God, your identity as a human
Mhm.
being, with all your beauty and talents and natural giftings. I mean, we are each so unique and precious and powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now, what inspired you to tell the story of the Rebel Girls?
It's like I said, when Sarah introduced me to the story and reading it and doing the research and knowing it had never been told, all of that inspired me. I love stories that are about, women, girls and women who thrive, who show you how big our brains are,
Hmm.
all of that, and wanting to bring, us tell a story that like the nieces and nephews, and particularly the nieces in my life could see and say, wow, if they can do that, I can do anything.
That's right. So, what was the most challenging aspect of making the film, and how did you overcome it?
Well, it's always money.
Right, money, honey. That's so true.
Because I was surrounded by nothing but love. Everyone I
Mhm.
asked to come to the table and make this film with me, they
Mhm.
did, from composers to my composer
Mhm.
to my friends who were produced additional music, to my casting director, to the post-production sound house, Smart Post, to the finishing a post-production house called The Foundation,
Mhm.
where it was also colored, to the DP, the cinematographer who was from another show that I worked. Like everybody just said yes. So the challenge was not like the work environment and all of the young actresses, they just came ready to play. They were all like from day one, let's go, let's
Mhm.
go. So it was really, you have a dream, speaking of dreams,
That's
of all
right.
you want to do, and then the reality of, oh, this is how much money I got. Oh, we're running out of money.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
we can't shoot for 5 days. We're going to have to
Yeah,
shoot for four. Oh my God, you're saying we may have to shoot for three? Okay, cut some things so we can shoot for four.
right.
So it's always that. I think that that's the biggest challenge. And of course, I'm the writer, director, producer. So in the middle of trying to direct, there were times I'd be interrupted by the other producer to deal with a producer,
Issue,
my
right.
producerial hat to
Mm-hmm.
deal with an issue. And you're like, I just want to focus on directing, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't get that. It's a short film with limited money, and you now get to do everything.
Well,
So,
it's a tremendous undertaking, and you accomplished it with great success. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful
thank you
finished
very
work.
much.
I would
Thank
love to
you.
see it in a longer format where we get to delve a little bit deeper into the characters'
Well, when
backstories.
anybody
And
says that to me, I always say, tell God.
amen, from my mouth to God's ears, sister. You know what? So maybe this is just where it starts, but I think again in longer format it would just be so powerful because again the 22 minutes are just so moving.
Yeah.
Now,
For me, it has to be just where it starts because I know what I came to do. I made this short film, but with the goal of other people seeing, oh, this must be a longer form. That is absolutely the
yes.
goal, and I will not stop until that goal is reached.
I love it. So it'll happen. I stand in agreement with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, what message do you hope audiences take away from the Rebel Girls? I know we've talked on a lot of different
Mhm.
notions, but for you, what was it, and the driving message for you behind
Yeah,
the
the
project?
driving message for me too, really. One is it is very, I hope that everyone that sees it feels empowered by it. I hope that everyone who has a dream, everyone who knows that they have it in them, that they're supposed to do something that really drives them, that they feel empowered to like, I can get to that thing I want to do.
Yes, yes,
I hope that it also brings us together as a people, that
yes,
we all, it helps us to all see the humanity in each other, because that's why it was important to depict them as three-dimensional, fully formed characters.
yes.
And then
That was
thematically,
powerful.
thank you, to remind us of um, for a time such as this, artists and storytelling is so important that now more than ever, we need artists to tell stories. We need artists to tell stories of the truth, to tell stories that inspire, to tell stories that bring us hope. So now more than ever, this is what, as a storyteller, I know I'm supposed to be
Was
doing.
that a Queen Esther reference? You've come to the kingdom for such a time as this,
Well, it,
honey?
it was not meant to
Yes,
be, but it obviously is. So for such a time as
absolutely.
this is
That's
exactly
right.
right.
I love it. What legacy do you hope to leave behind in Hollywood
Oh,
with your signature
mm,
in your works?
yeah, thank you. I hope I'm living that legacy
Mhm.
and that I am, a person who, lives, breathes, and bleeds mentorship.
Mhm.
I always have. It is a very important part of who I am. And so I hope that, and I know that there are people, many who will say, had I not crossed her path, I might not be here.
Wow.
I think it's important that for everywhere that I have ever stepped, it should be easier for someone who looks like me to then walk in those steps.
I love
So
that.
that's very important to me, that what have I done to give opportunity, to
Mhm.
change lives, to make people understand, see themselves as brilliant and capable of creating anything. That's
Yes.
really, really what's important. And then, did I tell stories that were true? Did I tell stories? I promise I wasn't going to Philippians 4 here, but are noble and worthy.
I love
I
it.
wasn't trying to, but I
Uh-huh.
think that that leave behind, not all about nice, happy, perfect characters,
Mhm.
but did I understand a challenging character better because she took us through how that character became that character.
Right.
So I also hope that like I added something to, oh, I never thought that maybe that's the journey that particular character was on, and maybe it's someone, like you, and that I created characters that allowed people to see themselves.
Yes.
Maybe, in disenfranchised groups and groups that, they don't see enough of themselves.
Right.
That those are the things that I hope
Well, I
I'm
think you
leaving.
definitely painted the picture beautifully in this depiction. I thought the scene where the grumpy old man and the racist man threw the water on the girls, and just seeing their pain, I think that resonated with me. Not even not even empathizing just with the racial degradation that the girls must have been feeling in that moment, but just on a human emotional level of suffering that I think if we all come to a compassionate understanding that we are all humans and we all suffer, then we can learn to love one another, love our neighbor as ourself, regardless of, color or creed, right? I think
Mhm.
that's the utopian ideal of heaven on earth.
Yes, for absolutely for sure. And like you said, it's a powerful moment, but it's a moment that also shows us that these girls are strong and
Yeah,
that they decided that that was not where they were supposed to be. And that, it is
absolutely.
a celebration, very much a celebration of their strength and their power and of sisterhood and really of our sense of humor,
Yeah,
that there's fun in that and our ability to dream. So these are all
absolutely.
important elements of
So,
all
as
of them.
someone who has broken barriers in Hollywood, and you're taking the civil rights perspective again and sharing it in a new light, what advice would you give to other emerging writers, producers, directors, innovators in the entertainment space?
Huh. I think I just, whatever area that you decided is the area you want to go in, I think you have to just be absolutely sure, first of all, because it is not, none of it in Hollywood is for the faint of heart.
Yeah, that's for
So,
sure.
you have to know that there's more rejection than there is acceptance, that the work is hard and that the work hard, when people tell you that's going to be hard to break in, or it's going to be hard to sell that story, or it's going to be hard to get that job, is that you hear the word hard and translate it immediately to worth doing.
Mm, I love that.
That's the advice that I would have. And if it's the thing that you want to do, then you should be studying that thing. If you want to write, you should be reading 2 or 3 scripts a day. If you want to direct,
Yes.
you should be watching movies and, like crazy and interviews with directors and stuff like that. If you want to produce, you should be breaking down the budgets of scripts so whatever you want to do, make sure you become an expert at that thing and you're ready before the opportunity even comes.
That's beautiful. I agree because, you don't achieve success, you become it. So we've got to educate ourselves, prepare ourselves, and grow into the
Yes.
person. That's beautiful. Now, how do you balance your personal and professional life with
With
such high creativity?
yeah, but like with a lot of time management is probably the fastest answer to that. With a lot
Mm,
of time management, my calendar is my friend and I am a slave to it.
mm,
So that doesn't mean things come up that you didn't plan, but if as long as I am always a slave to that calendar, most things work out. I schedule everything. I schedule even time to rest. I schedule it's time for me to go for a spa weekend.
right.
I schedule, oh, I need 2 hours to just read for pleasure and not for work.
Hmm.
And also I need time to hang out with my nieces and take them to see, Wicked, whatever that is.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to write. I have to write. So I'm writing today from 5 to 9. No, there's phone off, nothing. So I'm very much a slave to my planning schedule.
Yeah, that's good. Keeping organized, especially when
Yes.
you've got so much to manage. So, one of the last questions I want to ask is what is the greatest lesson you've learned on your life journey with all your experiences, personally, professionally? I'm sure you have such a unique story like all of us do. What's the greatest life lesson you've learned?
I think the greatest life lesson that I have learned is really about faith. It's how I define faith. And in that I've had to I think I have a better definition of it than I used to, because it used to very much be dependent on I need it to happen this way and I'm going to believe it happens this way,
Right.
as opposed to just putting in the universe what I want and letting the universe decide the best way for that thing to come to me.
Mm.
And also, you know, I don't know if I had to learn this because I was taught this, as a child, but about how you treat people and not
Yes.
because of who they are or what you need from them, but it's just right to be decent.
Amen.
It just is so fulfilling to be decent.
That's right.
And so for me, that I lead with that. I just want to be decent to people. And I want to, eliminate people out of my life who aren't decent back,
Right.
not only to
Yeah.
me, but to other people. So that is like I don't have to be in such a space.
Yeah.
And if you don't know my value, it's not my job to teach you.
That's right. Beautiful, beautiful and powerful lessons for any women out there, or any human being really, and I feel like through your work, you've shown and shared a lot of those values, even in subtle ways, because I think our works, they're a self-expression. They're,
Yes.
such a vulnerable display of our hearts, whether we're
Yes,
painting
very
a
much
picture
so.
or producing a film. So I love this movie. I thought it was beautiful,
Thank you so much.
visually, emotionally, spiritually. And so I'm really excited to see what's next.